fantasy, caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
Hey guys, what's going on? Underground Geek here. You know, this is my new thing that I'm trying to do. I did a poll earlier. I'm trying to do this little, kind of maybe an update of what's going on in the ComicsGate world and the comics world, and just kind of let you guys know more details of what's happening. And that way I can do one video and kind of encompass everything and not have to do like 3 or 4 of these videos and just give you more for, you know, your views. So I'm going to try this out and to see how it goes. So this week we have a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of things that went on. First of all, I want to go ahead and talk about a story that happened on December 11th. It was written by the esteemed journalist at Bleeding Cool, Joe Glass. You know, that guy that writes that. What is that? What's the name of the comic book? I don't even care. But it's a whole entire gay team of superheroes, because that's a thing. And he writes a story about Loki, the god of mischief, is to be pansexual and gender fluid in new series of Marvel anti-hero books in 2019. And so they write, the way he writes this title is he tries to act like it's something new. These are Marvel anti-hero books. They're not the same as what it was before. We're trying to be diverse. We're trying to change things. Venom is an anti-hero. Spawn is an anti-hero. Blade is an anti-hero. This is not new. This is not something different. It has, you know, quit acting like you're coming up with things. And pansexual is not a real thing. It just means you're more desperate than the other people. And you know, they have another thing that's called bi, and that just means you can't make decisions. But so we have this thing now where we have to, you know, we have to destroy everything. Everything that everybody else has created, we have to destroy it. We can't create, so we have to destroy. We have to bring everything else down to our level. So that's what they're trying to do. And it's just silly. I mean, they make Loki into an embarrassment. I mean, it's already bad enough the way he is in the Thor movies, and then you're going to make this kind of bullcrap. But anyway, moving on. Oh, we got an interesting little story here by Megan Fox. It seems like our resident poser, Aubrey Sitterson, he's getting fired after turning G.I. Joe's character into an overweight lesbian. Yeah, that'll do it. See, basically, since he's been on the book, it's had terrible sales. And then he had to go online during 9/11 and tell everybody that wasn't there in Lower Manhattan at the time of 9/11 that you're a poser for feeling any kind of remorse for the 3,000 people that died. I mean, I don't know anything more pompous than that. I mean, he's an open socialist. He has the nice little socialist rose on his Twitter handle, which that's what it stands for. And then, you know, he changes it every now and then. And I'm like, he took it off of his profile for a while. I was like, I wonder why. Why would you change that? It's almost like you understand that that's going to cause outrage by the people that don't live in a socialist state. But so then he writes this new like Scarlet series here for IDW, and before it even comes out, before it even has the final first issue orders in, they cancel it due to low numbers. You know why? Because nobody wants to buy that kind of unpatriotic bullcrap. You took this Samoan lady, took a 300-pound out-of-shape Samoan lady, and tried to make her into a Joe. That'll get you fired. But moving on, so we have this thing nowadays in comics where when somebody does something terrible to a comic, when they do a terrible job on something using their politics, they'll have these fake fans that come in and want to chime in on stuff and tell them how great they're doing, how awesome it is. How about you show me you going to the comic book store and buying the comic book? How about that? I want to see you go to the store and buy the comic book, because you're not a real fan. You're not buying the comic book. You just want attention. You want a virtue signal. So we got this dude here. He sends it to Cena Grace, which is the writer for Iceman. You know, that failed book that nobody's reading because he writes him like a sociopath and nothing like any other homosexual that you've ever met in your life. It's almost like a trope. It's a parody. He's trying to make fun of gay people. And so we have this guy here. He draws this little fan art of Iceman and says, "The current Iceman series by Sina Grace is so fun. So I wanted to give it some love with this awesome design by Kevin Wada." Hashtag. And so then we get this page here. It looks just like a woman. He give them a heavier lower body than an upper body. There's no muscle tone on upper body. You drew the face like they have permanent autism, and you have it's just no muscle tone, childbearing hips, and you put him in a romper. I mean, enough said. I mean, that face screams "kill me now." But moving on, so we had some images drop of the Teen Titans team that's coming out. It's a TV show. I think it's coming out on Fox, and they've released some of the images slowly of the different costumes, and now the image for Hawk and Dove has just dropped. And I gotta say, I don't know how I feel about these costumes, because, you know, of course, it's cool, more power to you for going, you know, pretty close to the costumes in the comic books, but at the same time, certain things about this costume just doesn't read well in reality and looks a little silly to me. Now, if they're awesome, that could kind of, you know, because we're taking it out of context, we're basically just looking at an image with no context. So if it turns out that he's like super awesome and she's super cool, then it may make up for it. We'll just have to wait and see, guys. Stop making decisions before you know what's going on. That's how you get in trouble. But anyway, moving on. So our resident jerk, Bill, how do you say his name? Sienkiewicz. He's an artist from Marvel and a couple other places. He did New Mutants, and he's basically a 60-year-old liberal that never really grew up and just kind of walks to the footsteps to the lockstep of everybody else in the SJW world. So he comes out with this tweet, and I have to say it's pretty offensive. It says, "Most punchable faces of 2017," and he's drawn a couple politicians' faces distorted and ugly and grotesque, and he has Sarah Huckabee Sanders on the very front of it. So he's taken this poor lady and he's saying, before I get all the you hateful liberal crap from the right, I'm not advocating for violence against women. I just have somebody's face on a bullseye and says it's punchable. This isn't about gender. It's about calling out lying scumbags who deserve some serious scolding and corrective head spankings. Head spankings? That's called punching, for their crimes against decency, morality, if not against history. So they always have to go with this thing. They have to say that you're a terrible person. You have to be a terrible person, and they have to tell everybody that you're a terrible person. That, you know, it has nothing to do with being right and wrong. They just want everybody to know that you're a bad person. And so he's advocating violence against this poor woman. Now let's think about this woman. She's a press secretary, or she's a press secretary for them, and so basically she is his press security guard. You know, like when the press wants to ask something, they have to ask her. So she has to put up with this stuff all day long. The last person that held this job was a man, and so now you have this woman. Just think about how tough she's got to be, because she's a woman doing this job, and she's got to be tougher than the guy that couldn't do his job. Just think about how tough this lady is. And then she gets up there and she's actually pretty nice to these people until they act stupid. I mean, basically, I don't know if you've ever heard any press conferences with Nick Saban, the coach of Alabama football and college football. But he's really nice to the press until they ask stupid questions, and then he just calls them stupid. He said, "Don't ask stupid questions." That's basically what she does. And they can't stand it. They can't stand anyone on the right. They have to make fun of them. They have to tell you that you're inhuman and that you're a terrible person. And I think that this guy right here needs a psych evaluation. This is terrible. How is C.B. Cebulski and how is Marvel letting this happen? This is awful. If somebody on the right had done this, they'd lost their job that day. But moving on. So then, just to remind us how stupid the milkshake girls are, Heather Antos encompasses everything that's wrong with Marvel right now. She is that basic bee that gets her Starbucks coffee, walks in there and says, "OMG, so random! Ha 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 ha! Oh, my life is so terrible. Sip, sip on my latte. Sip, sip." And so here's a couple of her tweets. Worst of 2017 list. Number 1, 2017. Oh my God, right, guys? Ha ha ha! I mean, it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You work at the most prestigious comic book company in the world. You have nothing wrong with your life. You did a GoFundMe and people gave you $2,500 to move to New York with your husband so that you could work at Marvel. Shut your mouth. And then she says, "My boyfriend got me a burrito blanket and a Porg collection for Christmas. He's a keeper." The only reason you like Porgs is because they look like penguins and you're extremely obsessed with penguins in an uncomfortable manner. Okay? You're like, "OMG, so random, penguins." And then, you know, I can't help it. I can't help it. I mean, Heather Antos, you're an idiot. Moving on. And so then, in other news, we had this huge fallout from the whole Melissa Morgue situation. It turns out that it is actually a very imposing, middle-aged, balding man with a family and kids. And it turns out that the wife has found out about this and she's extremely upset. And she's actually reached out to Ethan Van Sciver, an artist for DC, which was involved in the situation. And now Ethan is at fault on a couple of these things because he knew about who this was. He knew about what they were doing, and he did not tell them not to do it. In fact, he sort of encouraged them because they fooled him into thinking that they were just doing this as a parody for, like, you know, for fun. And just like Dick in Comics, he thought that this could be, you know, kind of a fun thing and silly, and then it flipped on him and turned into like a psycho ward type situation. So then when it's all found out who it is, it all blows up. This person comes out, and then Ethan does a 40-minute video tearing up this person's last video, and he's talking about here, he says, "I'm struggling with what I feel is my responsibility to this community to warn you about Melissa Morgue, who is in actuality a very large, imposing gentleman with tech training and a habit of posting threats and photos of murder victims under Twitter aliases. He won't stop." Yes, he made a fake account. I think it was John Dox 15, and was posting what he said was images of Melissa Morgue dead, but it was actually pictures that he pulled off Google of actual people that had died, which is a terrible thing to do. He comes out with this video, has this long explanation, tries to say that he's accomplished his goal, that he's done all this. Basically, it's what a crazy person does to justify their actions after they're caught and shut down. I mean, when your wife's notifying an artist trying to get you to stop, it's time to stop. So it's all found out. We all know who Martin is now. He needs to stop and go away. He's deleted his Twitters. I don't know if he's deleted his YouTube account, but it seems like it was all for naught. Now it's starting going away. Now, from what I'm hearing, though, there may be a little bit more to this, because it seems like he may have been aided and abetted by some of the pros at Marvel into doing this. And if that is so, if there can be a paper trail found, these people need to be ousted. They need to be brought to justice, so to speak, with Marvel allowing them to do this. And this needs to never happen again. Cut it out, people. Go make comics. And then in other news, Patreon comes out and says, "Oops, we did it again. Sorry." If you've been following Patreon, they have the nickname Hatreon because basically they're raising their fees for people that want to be patrons, and they're screwing them, which is also screwing over the people that have the accounts. So after it all gets out and it goes viral and it pretty much explodes in their face, they come out with this email. I got the email too, and it says, "Hey, we messed up. We're sorry, and we're not rolling out the fees change." And basically, that's a turn step in corporate terms. It says we're just going to find another way to do this. And so then, after they post this, you know, people had lost a lot of patrons. Some people had lost all their patrons, and that's money. You straight up took money from people and screwed up their income. And so that's why I switched to something called Maker Support. A lot of the other big guys have swapped to Maker Support. So if you want to do that, Swap over there, and their fees are a lot less, and they're not nearly as liberal as Patreon is. And you may say, well, how do you know they're liberal? Yes, they are. The people that run it have admitted to that. So then they posted on Twitter, and it flies back on them because people are saying, you know, now how do you help the creators that have lost patrons because of your hasty announcement? And they said, well, you know, basically called them on it and says, well, tell me how we're going to do it. And that's the worst possible thing you could have done. I tried to do one of these videos, I get interrupted, but anyway, so yeah. So they come out and basically make fun of the person that's complaining about losing money thanks to them. And so that's the things that SJWs do. They always want to come out with these snide remarks. Let me apologize for what I'm doing, but what would you have done? You know, that's always their philosophy. So that's why people are going to Maker Support, because they're not like that. You know, they're a new budding company that's trying to do what's best for the payers and the receivers. You know what I mean? But also, speaking of the whole Melissa Morgue thing, we got another little snidbit here. A person by the name Michelle Perez. She is a, you know, she's done much acclaimed comics like Island and oh yeah, there was Island that she did. She basically comes out and says here that if you say you're a fan of comics and you condone explicit organized harassment, they always talk about organized harassment, targeted harassment, all of these nice little trigger words against someone, and publicly working to announce someone's transgender in the closet. You aren't a fan. F you. I don't want your money, you scumbag. Well, nobody's going to give you money. You're not doing anything, Michelle Perez. You're too busy on here with the same avatar that freaking Magdalene Visaggio, Brian Visaggio uses. Would you come up with something more original? All you trans, you all get your avatars with the same avatar shop? But she's trying to say that Melissa Morgue is a digital trans because it's a full-grown, imposing middle-aged man pretending to be a woman in order to protect women from women. I mean, it's a totally just convoluted story, and she's an idiot. She is just another excuse to try to attack diversity in comics, which is a guy, a single dad from New York that was in the military. Did you guys know he was in the military? But anyway, so then our esteemed writer of Black Bolt, which I used to like until it got more and more convoluted. See, there's the thing though, these guys, even when they write good comics, they can't help but sabotage themselves. They cannot keep their mouths shut. Saladin Ahmed, you know, the guy that attacked Jerusalem that time on that Last Kingdom with Orlando Bloom, he gets on Twitter here and he's saying, he's making fun of Christmas and Christians. He says, can we please not have any more commercials with white people doing impossibly precious Christmas things for each other? This effing marionettes commercial makes me want to strangle someone. See, there's always that forced cursing. You know, they always have to curse, always have to have terrible mouths because they had no respect for anybody, no respect for themselves. His picture isn't even a picture of him, it's the corner of his face and his hair. And so his book's going down the toilet. He's not doing very good, and now he wants to come out here and do this kind of crap. And I'm like, people's not going to buy your stuff. You're a jerk, dude. Just go on. Leave people alone. On the side note, though, a good thing is Batman 37 and Batman 38 is coming out, and they've got this nice Copal variant covers, and they're just sweet. Take a look at some of these. I mean, they're just amazing. I love them. They're great covers, guys, though. Definitely check these out. I mean, the one with the Batman motorcycle, I mean, have you ever seen Batman more bossed when he's sitting laid back on that motorcycle like that? I mean, it is sweet. I love the way they draw Catwoman. I mean, whew, I love, where's this guy been? I hadn't seen him do anything in a while, and all of a sudden he pops up with his contract. Probably has a contract for a couple of variant covers. Man, sweetness. But alright guys, I hope this has been good for you. I'm going to try to keep doing these little updates for the week, just to kind of let you know what's going on. That way you don't have to watch 6 or 7 videos. You can watch one video and I'll tell you about everything, just kind of keep you up in the know. But alright guys, I'll talk to you later. This has been a broadcast by the Underground Geek, and have a great day. Bye guys.